Right.
After nearly 3 decades covering the Buffalo Bills, this guy knows what he's talking about. Welcome to Sal Speak, the place to be for hard-hitting analysis from Sal Maiorana of the Democrat and Chronicle.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sal Speak at democratandchronicle.com and Facebook Live. I am Sal Maiorana, and I am joined by my buddy back in the saddle again after a week off, Mike Catalana from Wham 13.
Good to be back. Good to be back. And I was just watching your little open. You are a hard-working guy,
I'm
man.
a hard-working guy who was much better looking a long time ago. I watched that montage of my career, and I'm like, oh man, what happened to that guy?
I think it's this camera shot. It looks like I'm getting a little gray in my hair.
Well, you are.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay.
By the way, today, December 7th, is Mike Catalana's 30th anniversary at Wham 13, so congratulations on that.
I've been there so long, it was WOKR when I started.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And we didn't have Fox, we didn't have all this other stuff that we have going on. 30 years, December 7th, a day
of infamy.
Yes, it is.
We'll live in infamy.
Yes, well, thank you.
At Channel 13, for sure. I got him by a year. I'm a year ahead of you.
Wow.
In the Rochester market.
God,
so
you are old.
We are. We got a lot of history here, Mike and I. So I really appreciate Mike joining me once again on the show as Leo Roth continues to convalesce from his broken leg.
Yes.
We wish him well. I might actually see Leo today. We were thinking of going out there.
Get well, Leo. I'm sure you're watching.
I'm sure he's watching right now, too. No, he's not. I'm positive he's not. All right, so Bills Colts.
Yep.
6-6 for the Bills. A predictable result last week against the Patriots. Look, they're still alive, Mike. We've kind of been discussing this for a couple weeks. What has to happen for them to have a chance? I thought last week, and I think you and I agree that doesn't blow them out last week, that loss. But, man, nothing else good happened in the AFC. Really, they took a big hit with all these teams. The Jaguars, Titans, Raiders won, the Chargers won. They did not have a good week.
Especially that Ravens, and the Ravens looked pretty good. That was a big one for them. The only positive that happened for them was Kansas City losing.
Right.
Because when you go down that other road, it still could potentially impact the playoffs. You go down that other road of the draft pick, Kansas City losing, and they keep dropping and dropping. They could drop totally out of the playoff picture. And then if that ends up happening, that's the plus for the offseason. But in terms of the playoffs, no, it was a bad week. I will say this. I do think if they win this week and they beat Miami, I think they're going to be alive. Well, they certainly will be alive after that. They'll be alive no matter what happens in the New England game going into the last week. I think the scenarios may be a little sketchy, but I think they'll be alive going into week 17 and that last game in Miami. But that means you got to win. And believe me, the Colts stink too. You know, the Colts are not a good team, but the Bills aren't good enough to be that way with anybody. So you got to go out and play.
I say that's an automatic for the Bills. I don't care who they're playing. So, you know, Indianapolis comes in here, the 3-9. All kinds of problems. They, like you said on the radio a little while ago, the worst coach in the NFL.
Oh, I just am not a fan.
Yeah, he's not a very good coach. I agree. He should have been fired probably a couple of years ago,
I
think. But he's still there. They just don't have much talent. I mean, their quarterback is one of the best in the league, and he hasn't played all season. Jacoby Brissett is their guy now, and he's been okay. But, you know, the problem with the Colts, Mike, and we've kind of said it for a few years, Jim Irsay in that ownership group and the leadership group there has not put enough pieces around Andrew Luck when he was healthy. And now you got Jacoby Brissett playing with subpar talent. It's almost an impossible situation for the Colts.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the Packers in this sense that the quarterback is so good. And now Aaron Rodgers is better than Andrew Luck or has been more successful. But he's so good that you overcome these other problems. And you see the Packers, and I give Mike McCarthy credit, better coaching, and they've been more competitive and found ways to win a few games, you know, with a guy who's not ready to take over.
They won last week. Hundley was worse than Tyrod Taylor, I think, in that game. They found a way to win.
Found a way to win because they got enough other things going on. And Jacoby Brissett looks like he's got ability, but in that group, and I think it's the kind of team that if you're the Bills, I think you can be better and look better against if you come out and are ready to play. If you're not, I don't care if it's the Colts. I'll say the Browns. It doesn't really matter if you play poorly. The Bills are not good enough to play poorly and beat anybody.
That's right. So now the big question we're facing with this team, and we don't know, at practice today, Tyrod Taylor was out there for the portion that the media is able to watch, the individual, and it's not much of that either. It's very, very brief. We usually see him stretching is what we see, and we see a few things individual. He was out there, but a couple guys have tweeted that He looks like he's got a little bit of a limp.
Yeah.
I really believe, Mike, and McDermott's talking right around now probably as we tape this. He'll probably continue to go day to day on the Tyrod update.
Right.
Not going to say today.
Yeah.
But I think the winds are blowing towards Nathan Peterman this week. It
Yeah.
looks like that.
And look, if there's a slight benefit of saying the other team doesn't know who's going to play, and Tyrod is a guy you have to prepare differently for,
exactly.
I would stick with it as long as I could. Now, maybe he comes out today and announces that Peterman is going to be the starter, but I would stick with it. Why not? You're in this position. This isn't like one of those phony ones where both guys are healthy and you're thinking you're keeping. No, if it helps a little bit, don't say anything. If I'm the Colts, you already know kind of the way Tyrod plays, and you're preparing a little bit for the new guy and Peterman and what he does. I would hold on to it. I think all signs point to Peterman getting his second opportunity to start this week.
And you know, there was so much talk about when he benched Tyrod the original time, and Peterman, you know, totally imploded against the Chargers. This time, and look, if he did that once, Mike, we know what he feels about Tyrod Taylor. We know that McDermott doesn't believe Tyrod Taylor is the guy for this team. Now he's got kind of a built-in excuse to turn back to Peterman. Peterman got in the game last week in the fourth quarter after Tyrod finally took himself out, and he looked, you know, okay in garbage time. He didn't throw a pick, which was really nice for his confidence if nothing else. So, you know, he's gotten back on the horse, so to speak. He got that playing time. To me, I think McDermott, deep down, would still rather watch Nathan Peterman play, even though he publicly admitted that Tyrod Taylor is probably the best quarterback on the roster right now after the Chargers game. I think deep down, he did it once. I think he wouldn't mind going back to Peterman for this game.
Yeah, I think it was in part certainly to see Nathan play, and in part because they're frustrated with how Tyrod plays the game. Now, in this case, because Peterman was so bad with the 5 interceptions, and we know, I know everybody that wants to support him is going to say, right, they weren't all totally his fault.
They weren't.
But when you have 5 interceptions in a half, and he had to pull them out at halftime, it took away Sean McDermott's ability to just, until maybe like the last game of the season, to just put Peterman back. So you're right, this gives him the excuse to fully go, hey, Nathan's got to play this week. And I think in fairness to Tyrod, too, he is banged up.
Yeah.
I mean, he took a bit of a beating in that game, the couple of hits. So it makes it easier. It'll be interesting to see where Tyrod is the rest of the week if he does announce Peterman. I don't think, if he's banged up, I don't think you even activate him for the game. I think you make him third, and then we get Joe Webb experience as the backup.
And McDermott even said on Wednesday, you know, part of the consideration of what he's going to do is, can Tyrod execute the game plan? Let's face it, his legs are a key part of their game plan every week. And I don't think they want to put him out there in a situation where he's not going to be able to do what he does, you know, physically. So that's why I think it just looks like Nathan Peterman will get the start. Now, if that is going to be the case, then what do you think in terms of this offense? Do you try? I mean, they should be getting Kelvin Benjamin back this week. Jordan Matthews is gone. They brought up Brandon Riley from the practice squad. The Colts are horrible in pass defense, 32nd in the league. They're bad on defense overall. I think it's a golden opportunity for Nathan Peterman. And again, we've kind of been saying that at some point this year, he's going to get his audition. We never thought the Bills would make the playoffs. We thought this would be going on for a good chunk of the year. His audition, this might prove to be his audition for next season.
I think it is. And I think the one thing I could take from that Patriots game, even though it was garbage time, he's not afraid to throw the football.
No,
he's not gun shy. He threw it. He threw into coverage. I mean, twice trying to get Stephon Gilmore in your favorite play, the fade in the end zone.
Worked so well for the Bills.
Twice he tried to do that. He zipped one across. Andre Holmes dropped one, hit him right in the chest. So that part I was really happy to see. So if he's going to do that in coming in, even in relief in the Patriots game, I think he comes out in this game. I think he's ready to throw the ball. And look, he's got Kelvin Benjamin. He's got Zay Jones, who has certainly picked up his play, because again, he had a terrible start to his career, too. And he's got Charles Clay. He's got McCoy. He's got enough guys out there that you can move the ball against the Colts. So that's what I want to see out of him.
I'm dying to see Brandon Riley.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And again, this kid isn't going to be Julian Edelman. I mean, that's his favorite player, by the way.
Yes.
And he is kind of it's the similar styles of play. They brought him up from the practice squad. He went viral during the preseason because he made all these catches and it's preseason, and we know that. But he did stick it through for 12 weeks in the practice squad. And now he gets his chance because Jordan Matthews has been put on IR. So you hope Other teams find guys like this, right? Edelman's the perfect example. Danny Amendola. These players who really weren't thought of that highly in the scouting process, and they come in and they're just football players.
Yeah.
And this kid seems to have that pedigree. He walked on at Nebraska.
Right.
He was as he says, a 0-star recruit.
Right.
Coming out of high school. He ended up playing 4 years there. Didn't have great numbers, but he played 4 years for a Big Ten school. Goes undrafted. Now he gets his chance. He's a survivor. And those are the kind of guys you want going into battle with.
You do. And what you worry about, not worry, what would say to you this guy's not going to be as big a contributor would be if what he lacks can't be overcome, in a sense of saying he's just a notch below. He's a AAA level player.
Right.
And we don't know that yet. Some of it might just be experience. We know he was a hockey player growing up. So maybe he could play for the Sabres too, because they could use the help.
One Buffalo.
And the other thing I'm thinking is, do you know who else was born in Nebraska?
Who?
Sean McDermott.
Was he really?
Born
that's
in
right,
Nebraska.
He was born there.
Born in Nebraska.
His dad was
and
coaching
let's
college
face
football.
it, Sean McDermott is that guy as an NFL head coach. No pedigree.
Right.
Played at William and Mary, where I think he was a walk-on there too, right?
Walk-on, yeah.
Walk-on. But even going into the NFL, if you read what he says in his bio, basically what he's most proud of is the fact that he went into the NFL without the person there to bring him in.
Entry level.
He did. He had to do that.
He was getting Andy Reid's coffee in Philadelphia.
Exactly. So he relates to this kind of guy. A lot of coaches do, but I think he really does. But in fairness, it's not like Sean McDermott said week one, Brandon Riley's ready to go. It sort of had to be a lot of things happening. While we're talking about this, I want to say this about Jordan Matthews. He never got a chance to do anything here, but it is funny to me because I've watched him play for the Eagles. Then people will say, well, he doesn't get separation, he doesn't do this. Yeah, all that's true. Except when he was in Philly for 3 years, he averaged about 70 catches and about 850 yards and 6 touchdowns. So they found a way. And you know who his quarterbacks were? Nick Foles, Mark Sanchez, a rookie Carson Wentz, and Sam Bradford. It wasn't like it was this Carson Wentz. It was him as a rookie and the other guys. So they still found a way to get him the ball.
What Mike is saying is it's an indictment on Tyrod.
Well, yeah,
this
and Bill's quarterback play.
That Bills fans don't seem to. I think some do.
But
now, a lot don't understand.
In fairness to Tyrod too, he wasn't healthy. Like the kid got hurt his first practice at Fisher, and then hurt his knee, hurt his hand. He had a lot of those, so it isn't totally on Tyrod. But when he's out there, I mean, he caught a ball. You got to throw him the ball. You got to throw him, and he's a timing guy. And we know timing has not been a key for this offense.
As you said, he's not a great separation guy, which means he's not always going to be open. That's Tyrod's biggest weakness, is not throwing to guys who are covered. He doesn't give guys a chance. It had to be really frustrating. He's in a contract year.
Yeah.
He leaves the Eagles, who are 10-2, and they've got a great young up-and-coming quarterback. He's going to get big money after this year if he has the same kind of season. And he comes to Buffalo, and it was a flop from almost day one. It had to be frustrating. He's running out on every pass pattern, and Tyrod's not looking his way.
Yeah.
He had 25 catches, Mike. 25 catches for like 200 and change.
Yeah,
this
nothing.
is an awful season. Anyways, to the Colts.
Yeah.
Offensively, man, Andrew Luck. How good is Andrew Luck? Because he has had a nice career with some of the garbage they've always had. He's had like one good player, it seems like, T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah.
Now they got Frank Gore, who's 75 years old.
Still can run, though.
As their main running back.
Yeah.
This Jack Doyle is a pretty good tight end,
right.
from what I see. But they have no offensive line.
No.
I mean, my God almighty. Andrew Luck, for several years, was playing with similar type talent. And he got into the playoffs a couple times.
It's criminal, I think, what the Colts have done.
It is. They ruined his best years.
You were handed Andrew Luck. You were that team that had Peyton Manning all those years. The year Manning gets hurt happens to be the year Luck is coming out.
It's unreal.
You finish with the worst record, and you get Luck. You get lucky, you get luck.
This is basically Favre to Rodgers.
Now they're
same
right,
thing,
and there'll be people that'll be saying, "Well, they made it," and they did. They made it to that AFC title game, and they played. But that kid carried them, absolutely carried them. And I'm telling you, they're a bad organization with bad ownership. And if they're dumb enough to want to part ways with him,
they can't be.
I'm telling you, I would, if I'm a team like the Bills, and they'll have plenty of competition, you're going to trade these draft picks, call Indianapolis up and they say, hey, Andrew Luck's not healthy yet. Hey, what do you want? You want one number one? You want another number one? I'd take my chances to get Andrew Luck. get him healthy, and then put him in a uniform.
Well,
and I don't think it'll happen.
It's a nice thing to think about.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they're going to trade away a franchise quarterback in his prime, no matter what his health situation is.
Yeah.
I think that's a reach. I would love to have it happen, and I would sacrifice a good chunk of this draft.
It would be interesting to see if they got the word out that Luck could be available, how many teams? Think about the teams around the league that would step up. The New York Giants might be one of them.
It's like this Ohtani kid from Japan. Every team wants to take a look and throw at their hat in the ring, obviously. Andrew Luck would be a plum. You know, the Bills have so many holes, Mike, going into the offseason. We know this. The draft is going to be very important, and they've got a lot of picks that they can address needs. But, man, I would give away some prime real estate to get Andrew Luck.
And,
I just don't think it's going to happen.
And I'm a big believer in who's coaching a guy if you get a young quarterback. And that's the one thing that's going to be a real challenge, I think, for Sean McDermott. If the Bills turn around and say they make moves, they get Baker Mayfield or whoever they decide, if they make a big move, go up to the top of the draft, get Rosen, get Darnold if he decides to come out, you got to coach the guy. Look at what the Rams are doing when it comes to real coaching and what the Eagles have done with Wentz when it's real coaching on the offensive side. Now, Sean McDermott's a really good, I think he's a very good coach. He's not a quarterback's coach.
Nope.
So you got to have the right guy.
I just was so confused that his quarterback's coach is a guy who's coached receivers his whole career. That was the one move that really made me scratch my head. I'm not a real big Dennison guy. Dennison never called plays with the Broncos and Texans, and he was his choice for offensive coordinator. And then you think, okay, well, you need to get a good quarterback's coach. And he brought David Culley in, who's a wide receivers coach. I just think in the offseason, the Bills are going to be getting a quarterback. I think they're definitely going to go up in the first round and get one. I think they got to retool at that position.
100%.
That coaching position.
Because it is, and it's the organization. Like if he's the guy, the focus has to be on that guy. And for a guy like Sean McDermott, a control guy, to give up that control, because you really do have to do that. You got to put it in the hands of your coordinator and your quarterback's coach and say, make this guy work. That's why it most of the time works for an offensive coach. There are exceptions. Bill Belichick, he's an exception to every rule. And he's got Brady, but I think he could coach any position. In Seattle, it's a little bit different there, the way he plays, but most other guys, it's an offensive-minded coach with the top quarterbacks. Do you think
Marv Levy knew anything about quarterback play? He had Ted Marchibroda.
But Marv
took Kelly under his wing and made Kelly who he became.
And you and I know this. Marv, based on his personality and his confidence, was not afraid to delegate.
No, he was a great delegator.
He was, and that's his skill. He really was. He knew. He wasn't a play call. He was the CEO, basically. Put good people in a position, let them do their jobs.
He had a great World War II analogy or anecdote every Saturday night to get him fired up. And then on game day, if it was fourth down and he need to make a call, Marv did. But everything else was his coordinators.
And in lieu of all the problems that the Bills are having with injuries and everything, it's a great Marvism when he says depth is a great thing until you have to use it. And they're using it this week.
It's true. All right, let's get to a few of the questions here. Gregory Paul wants to know, are we done with the Tyrod era? Let's just start the kid and let's see what he's got the rest of the year. Yes, I mean, I do believe that, I thought this last year that Tyrod was going to be not coming back to Buffalo. Circumstances changed that. I don't think circumstances change this year.
Here's the only way I think it changes. You go out and play the Colts this week, and the Colts are not a good team, and Nathan Peterman struggles. Struggles in the game, but you find a way to win. You win the game, 14-10, and Peterman really struggles, and it's that position, and Tyrod is better next week. He might then be forced to go back with Tyrod.
Well, and he's on record as saying when healthy, Tyrod's our starter. So it may not be the end of the Tyrod era, but you're right. If he's terrible again,
and they win,
they're still alive.
Then he might have. That would be the scenario where he might.
But I think long term, I do think we are finally going to see the end of Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo. They're going to move on.
And look, neither of us are sitting here going, "It's Nathan Peterman." Like I look at Nathan Peterman, I go, I hope for the Bills' sake that he becomes that guy. If not that guy, I hope he becomes the competent backup that you drafted in the 5th round and a guy who can play for you and maybe start for a little while until whoever you draft is ready to go. But there's a difference between thinking it's Peterman and knowing it's not Tyrod. And I think for the Bills, I think they know it's not Tyrod.
Yes, I would agree. I knew it a long time ago, but they didn't listen to me. All right, Gregory Paul says, finally, Sir Brandon Riley has arrived, dilly dilly. Yeah, I said it earlier. I am curious. Now, the only thing that I'll say about Riley is you wonder how he lasted 12 weeks on the practice squad.
Right.
I mean, any team can sign Brandon Riley, So you wonder maybe he doesn't quite have what it takes. Maybe he's not the next Julian Edelman. But I am curious to see what he can do. We saw some nice things in the camp and preseason.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, Peterman's been throwing with this guy for 3 months, like
and he's
every
got size.
single day.
He's a bigger kid. You know how well Paul Turner's done for the Eagles, right? Paul Turner.
Yeah, who's he?
Paul Turner was a guy in the preseason the fans went crazy for. How could you cut Paul Turner? Paul Turner. Well, they cut him. No one picked him up. They put him on the practice squad. I think he was activated for a game last year. Towards the end of the year, he did nothing. Now, I'm not saying Brandon Riley's going to do that, but I think as fans, sometimes you see these guys who excel in the preseason. But you're right. Every other team sees the guy, too. And they will go to your practice squad, as we saw last week with the Patriots. Of
you had to bring that up?
Well, they take a guy off the Bills practice squad.
The guy was here 2 months, and he wasn't, in their eyes, good enough to beat out Ramon Humber and 34-year-old Lorenzo Alexander and Matt Milano. Tell him what he did last week.
Well, let's see. Bills. He had an interception. Of course,
Eric Lee.
Tyrod hit him in the chest on that one. He had 1 sack or 2 sacks?
1.5
1.5 sacks, and he blocked at least one pass during the game.
One pass batted down.
Yeah, that's
4
a pretty
tackles.
good game.
Yeah, he was there for 2 months, and he wasn't good
That's
enough for
because
the Bills.
Hogan didn't play and Gillislee didn't play, so they needed another former Bill to get him.
They needed another ex-Bill to step in, so that worked out real good. All right, Alex Centrelli, I think I said that right, wants to know, with Jordan Matthews now on IR, do you expect him to be in Buffalo next season? Absolutely no. Do you think Jordan Matthews would sign back up for this, especially not knowing what the quarterback situation will be?
No.
He wants to move on. The problem, as we said earlier, he really lost a lot of money. By coming to Buffalo this season, he did lose a lot of money.
I think first of all, he's a great kid, and I think McDermott would really like him. He's an upbeat guy, and when healthy, he is productive. I think the only way he's back is if he's looking on the market. The Bills like some of the things he would do, and you bring him back on a 1-year sort of prove-it deal and all, which would be the only case. But I think based on the fact they went out and got Benjamin, and Zay Jones can play the inside middle part of the field, I don't think they would bring him back next year.
Michael Avent Sr. has a kind of a lengthy question, but we'll get through it. I like you guys. I hate to say it, but I told you so with a lot. Buffalo played the Patriots tough last week. New England made adjustments after halftime, but our OC doesn't know how to change. Why must he always run on second down? Good luck to Tyrod, because Buffalo didn't appreciate him as a quarterback that refuses to turn the ball over. Peterman could have thrown 2 more interceptions. Look, we can go through all of that, debate all of what he said there. The bottom line is Tyrod Taylor is not good enough to be the Buffalo Bills quarterback, no matter what all that was. New England made adjustments, blah, blah, blah. New England's the better team.
Right.
I don't care what adjustments they made. They were going to win the game regardless. Tyrod Taylor is not good enough to beat a team like the Patriots. Nathan Peterman probably isn't either at this point in his career. So I don't even know why we're bothering discussing the Patriots.
I like what Sean McDermott says about this part. Your offense has to put pressure on the other team. And I think when you look at Tyrod, you say to yourself, where does he put pressure on the other team? Basically when he runs the ball.
Right.
And when he runs it. And he can do that. He's sort of backed off doing that, doesn't do it as much, but that's the case. And I will say that if you, look, Tyrod could end up going to another team and doing really well. But if I ask most fans out there, I'm going to say, you take a bet. Does Tyrod go to another team, have a great year and lead them to the playoffs? Or is Tyrod a stopgap guy who plays, fans are looking to call him as being what he is, which is a stopgap guy, and eventually replacing him? Which side of that bet are you taking? Yeah. No matter what team he goes to. And that's not, hey, look, he's a good enough player, tough guy who has worked his way up from being a nobody coming into the league. What he was drafted in the, what's Tyrod, sixth round?
Sixth round.
Right. And he's started for 3 years, made a lot of money. Good for him. You don't denigrate him because he's not great. I just don't think he's a great quarterback.
Right. Gregory Paul says, so as of right now, do the Bills go after a high-profile quarterback in the draft? Thoughts on Mayfield? Yeah, Mike and I were talking about this a little while ago. The Big 12 championship game, I watched a good chunk of that. I liked what Mayfield looked like in that game. He's had a nice career there. I don't know. I mean, I know he's short. I think he's 6 foot.
Yeah, 6'1", something,
whatever.
Right.
He has some characteristics that I don't care that he grabbed his crotch and you know, gave the bird to the Kansas Jayhawks or whatever happened. I don't care about that. I know he had another incident too. Didn't he get arrested or something?
That was during the off season last year. Yeah, look,
whatever. These aren't choir boys.
Right.
If the kid can play, and I think he's got some moxie, I would not be totally opposed to the Bills. You know, and if you pick him, Mike, I don't think you have to mortgage all those high draft picks to go up and get a Rosen or Darnold. Maybe Mayfield's sitting right there for you with one of those picks they have in the first round.
Well, let's keep in mind what always happens with the quarterbacks, right? These guys were anointed before the season. Then they play. Then everybody starts ripping them. Then they'll start moving up. This is what will happen. Then they'll go back again. Then you're going to hear scouts going to come out and say 3 quarterbacks are going to go in the top 5. Then everybody will rip them again. And then when the time comes for the draft, usually the quarterbacks go high. Look what happened last year, though. Everybody had sort of backed away from the kid from Clemson, and then there he is sitting there, and the Texans take him. Now, unfortunately, he got hurt, so we didn't get to see him for the whole year. But that can happen, too, sometimes where you find the flaws. We'll find all the flaws. I'm with him on Mayfield. He's winning me over because of his ability to get to spots. Now, he's a Big 12 quarterback. Usually they fail.
Right.
But in terms of his
wide open offense,
but in terms of when you watch the way he throws the ball and the way he finds spots and the throws he's not afraid to make on guys who are covered, I mean like NFL covered at times when he's throwing into there, and the fact that he acts like a jerk sometimes, it's amazing. Have the Bills ever had a guy like that, right?
No.
Maybe number 12 who acted that way when he first came into the NFL, and even really while he played in the NFL. I'm not saying he's Jim Kelly. I'm saying is Jim Kelly was kind of like that.
Those aren't all the attributes that I'm going to kill him for.
Right.
The ones we're talking about. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm just not going to. It just kills me, too. They were saying that Mayfield, the combine is going to be really important for Mayfield. It's such nonsense.
No, the combine's important.
It's for the interview.
The interview and the medicals. That's where the combines are. And he'll throw, and again, even that, he'll throw with his guys, you know, is what they'll end up doing. He can throw the football.
He can.
And they got a bunch of tape of him throwing the football. But when you're turning over the franchise to a guy and you're drafting him, you better be buying in. Those interviews and those visits are, to me, is important, which has always stunned me. Maybe the thing that surprised me the most in my all these years with you covering the Bills is that Tom Donahoe sat in a room with J.P. Lossman. Tom Donahoe, a very good football guy his whole career, thought J.P. Lossman could lead a franchise. Just personality alone. I never understood that those two as a connection there. So those are the kind of things, that's where you can really fail if you pick the wrong guy.
All right, a couple more and we're going to get out of here. Ken Capilano says, and he's right, $4 tickets, another heroic run to 7-9. Speaking of the draft, speaking about the draft in November, has anything really changed around here? Well, sadly, he's right. Not a lot has changed around here. That stadium will not be full on Sunday. They've been full for the first 6 games. It's been nice. There'll be a lot of empty seats. The teams are, you know.
Hey, like let me tell you something.
There's not two very good
teams. You were in
here.
Kansas City in a first-place team.
That's right.
And there were empty seats in Kansas City on a beautiful day.
Allegedly the best fans in the NFL. And
right.
Thousands of empty seats.
I give Bills fans a lot of. Yes, I know everybody loves the whole $4 tickets because you can go on StubHub. First of all, I don't know why anybody in the world would want to sit in those seats anyhow, way up in the top in the corner. But fans will still show up for the game.
Probably.
But I still do believe that things have changed, and my hope for Bills fans is that we'll see the result of it. Sean McDermott's biggest failure this year was having success early because it changed the dynamic. Because this was not.
The expectations changed.
That's what it was, and I don't think he was.
How many wins did you peg him for before the
7.
year? Well, you're more than I thought 5.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of Bills fans.
I kept thinking with 7, and I'm like, man, was I wrong? And then it went the other way, and I'm like, oh, I don't even know if they're going to get to 7.
Yeah.
So it may end up that way. Not the season, not the way it has gone, but I do believe. The good thing is when we talk about the draft, at least they're loaded with picks this year going into the draft. So that'll be a plus.
Last question here from J.A. Bazile. Wants to know any thoughts on whether the Bills may get a quarterback in free agency, someone for our draft pick to learn behind. Well, there was speculation about Eli, right?
Yeah.
When Eli got benched, maybe he would leave and be a bridge guy. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know. I mean, Kirk Cousins is probably going to go to market.
Right.
It's going to cost a ton.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to do that. As far as bridge guys, I don't know. I mean, if I'm the Bills next year, Mike, maybe you want to get a guy to be your backup.
Right.
Like he's talking about a mentor. I'm not looking for a bridge guy. I want them to draft their quarterback and play him immediately.
I think that's going to be
get this thing going in the right direction.
And that's why I said maybe Nathan Peterman is your bridge, as in a sense of saying Peterman's here. And I don't mean this that we know he's going to be. I mean that Peterman's here. He's a guy that can play for you. But if the kid beats him out and you think he's ready to go, then let him go ahead and play. And it's so hard to judge. Look at Jared Goff. That kid, #1 overall pick, came in an absolute disaster as a rookie. He gets real coaching the second year, and he might end up being a Pro Bowl quarterback.
That's the game of the week this week. Your Eagles against the Rams.
Yeah.
Against
and
the top 2 picks in last year's draft.
And it is, again, where you got coaching on these guys, these young guys. It's a tough position to play. It is a tough position. All the things that go into it. Can't judge them too early. You got to watch them play. But sometimes you put the guy out there. These two guys are an interesting, when you look at them. Goff, both of them got to play early. Wentz, because they traded Bradford, who was supposed to be the bridge guy,
right.
And they both played. Wentz was good, okay. Goff was terrible. Second year, both of them taken off. So it's hard to judge how they're going to be.
So there's hope for Nathan Peterman.
Well, there's hope. There's hope. I said to you,
fifth rounder to a first
if he
rounder.
ends up being the backup
Maybe
quarterback
he's
and
Maybe
he's
you're
the bridge for next year, and you watch in training camp, and Sam Darnold or whoever they pick or Baker Mayfield is ready to go with Baker Mayfield, and let's see what happens.
All right, we'll close it out on this thought from J.A. Bazile. You guys are a great team.
Look at that.
Thanks for taking the time. Well, I want to thank everyone out there who was watching today on Facebook Live. I appreciate it. For Mike Catalana, I am Sal Maiorana. Thanks for being here for Sal Speak. If you want the podcast later, go to iTunes, type in Sal Speak. It's there. Pay attention to Mike tonight on his 30th anniversary broadcast. What time are you on tonight? 5, 6, 11, 12,
10,
1,
11.
2?
Yeah, like
He's on
him.
all day.
All the time.
Well, pay attention to Mike as they celebrate his 30th anniversary.
Oh my God! If they do, there's going to be
shots. Is there going to be a cake? Is Donnell
Somebody
going to pop
asked
out of
me.
the cake?
Oh yeah, good. Somebody asked me that about a cake. Cake.
You don't want a cake?
Yeah, I get enough attention. Being here with you is enough attention. Yeah, I'll watch. There you go.
Yeah.
30th. What is it for 30 years?
Golden microphone.
Golden microphone. Yeah, no, that's. I'm 5th in our station at 30 years.
Yeah.
Al Hart, Embledge, Ginny, Glenn Johnson.
Wow. So you're a young guy at this.
I'm the young guy.
I'm not a young guy here.
No, you're
I'll tell
old.
you that. All right. Anyways, thanks for being here, folks. Have a great day.